All right, so the topic for this next video, data management, topic number 1, and then scheduling. So, Lawrence, how do you manage your school's data?
I use a database.
Okay.
So for anybody who doesn't know, everyone's probably heard database. Everyone's definitely heard of database, but what it actually is to put it really simply, you put your data in once and you're able to manipulate that data into pretty much any way you want to. So making different letters, forms, emails, by just putting your data in once. And that's how I swear by this stuff, man. It's great. How about you? What do you do to manage all your data?
Well, I stick to kind of the Microsoft Office. All of my payment information is I record on Excel.
Yep.
And for my lesson materials I make and things for events and like that, I use Microsoft Word and just have it saved on my computer. Pretty basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as I get busier and I need to kind of like a next level of organization as that becomes necessary, I'd like to move into something what you're talking about. But I think starting out, it doesn't have to be too complicated, as long as you can use some basic functions in Excel and just kind of stay on top of it,
Yeah, I mean, I got lucky. The last school I worked at, the guy already had FileMaker, which is the database software that we use, but he had it all set up and he was using it. So I got to play with it for a couple of years and
that's great.
Learn ins and outs. Yeah, and I was managing a little bit of his data. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that big of a step for me to start my school with it.
Yeah, that's another point too. I mean, as teachers, a lot of us are, that's our job. It's our job duties, and we're really going to focus on things like planning lessons and keeping track of student attendance and progress.
Yeah.
It's easy to overlook the other things, that are happening in the school. Like, what are the office staff doing all day? And so it's great you had that opportunity, because when I first opened, I was like, dang, what should I do to manage all this data? And I started off with this grid on Word, and like every time you put something in, you have to type it, and then you like get a calculator and just scroll down and add everything. It's like, what am I doing? It's like, Yeah, familiarity with software is huge. If you have something you can just jump into like that.
And it kind of doing a letter to every student, so every student gets their own Microsoft Word file, right? I know there were times where I didn't copy and paste the right name or the right amount, just putting the wrong data into the wrong student's file. Not to say like the database you can do that, but there's less chance of you kind of doing data.
Tonight. What's the word? There's definitely it's a much smaller margin for error, I guess.
Yeah, but it does. I mean, they're getting better in terms of design, but it still looks like a robot made it. Yeah, so you can't make anything that looks. I mean, if you're making a poster or something for the events, worksheet or something, your database is not the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, for managing your data, for managing school data, definitely that route I highly recommend. There's also online resources too, though. Like there's I think smartschool.com. I think that's one. It's like an online database that's set up for small classrooms. Yeah, small schools like us. It's free. Yeah.
How about for things like your attendance records and class records. I just use these guys. I have a folder box on my desk with arranged by days, and I just keep all the students' data and things like this. Pen and
Okay.
I have one sheet for the date and what was done in class and homework, and then another sheet in the back for attendance, which is super, super important.
Right.
You can coordinate that with what students owe and things. It sounds like no big deal and no brainer, but if you don't do it, time will pass and you'll forget. Did they come on that day? Stuff like that.
Yes.
I'm still very much a pen and paper man. How about for scheduling?
My attendance, I have an Excel file for that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one, yeah. I do use Excel. Yeah. But yeah, that goes on there. Lesson planning, that goes on database. And I have this whole collaboration with Dropbox and PDFs and all that. But
that's cool.
Yeah.
I when I was in school, I studied. I had kind of a dual major thing going on, and one of them was instructional design and technology. And I kind of was made aware of what's out there, but and I played around with like the Adobe systems. You know, they have a lot of like super fine-tuned graphics software and things like that. And,
like Photoshop and Illustrator and all that.
Yeah. And I don't know. I just kind of came back to just the basics. You know, Excel, pen and paper, and actually one of the best graphics programs, just generally user-friendly, super flexible, is PowerPoint. I use that all the time. Yeah, for creating images and especially for creating flyers for events.
Right, okay.
Here you can blend, you can separate, you can create so many things, import all kinds of different files. And you can also save PowerPoint files as different files.
Really?
Oh yeah, JPEG, PDF, it's...
Okay, I didn't know PowerPoint did all that.
Yeah, it's... The only issue is for printouts, you can't, well, to my knowledge, I haven't figured out how to print out larger than the size of a slide. So on the A4 paper, it's going to be a pretty noticeable border.
Okay, yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. So
Right.
for me, my main hesitation with software is the learning curve. I mean, some of that stuff is so hard to figure out, you know?
Right.
It doesn't mean it's not worth it, though. Like you say, you feel like your database makes things easier using the kind of, you know, little more involved type of software.
Yeah, well, here's just an idea of how steep that learning curve was. I had an evening with this FileMaker database program. In like 3 hours, I was able to make 4 rectangles.
Yeah, I've been there with other stuff. I'm just like, I know if I knew how to use this, it would be amazing, but
Yeah.
2 years. You know?
Right.
And it's always evolving, and you know, if you do it as
I mean, I guess just in terms of like balancing out your work, I mean, you have to have your system and stuff. You need your system that works for now. Yeah. And your kind of R&D department, right? Your little research and development. Time-wise, right? Like, okay, now I'm gonna learn how to do this, because that investment is definitely gonna work with the payoff in the long run. But yeah,
for sure. I mean, most of us in this day and age are.
Move on, or should we call it there?
Sorry.
What's up?
I was just
going to move on to the next topic, or just call it there?
The next topic.
Yeah, or should we just call it
transfer lessons? So we may as well.
Okay.
So yeah, the next one is transfer lessons. Maybe we should define that. What is a transfer lesson, Lawrence?
Transfer lesson is so you have your students coming to the same lesson the same day of the week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they can't, for example, your student comes a Tuesday at 4:30. They miss that class. So you give them an option to make it up in
Okay.
another class during the week.
Okay. Cool. So I think other schools may also call them makeup lessons.
Makeup lessons,
Yeah.
transfer lessons.
45 go. Okay. Yeah, that can be tricky, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hot topic. I mean, some people will do them. Other people just swear against them, like they're the
Yeah.
devil, right? It's definitely like an administration nightmare having to deal with all of it.
Yeah.
But but as you say, and you said before that it's just we're all people too, right? We're just people, right? And at the end of the day, it's people working together. So being flexible,
Yeah, flexibility
right?
is major. Yeah, and I just eventually realized, thankfully, with very very little. This is one thing I didn't really learn the hard way. I've learned a lot of things in life the hard way, but this lesson, um, I just you need a kind of a sense of decency. You don't really want to sacrifice, service and the quality of your relationship with the customer just to save yourself, a few thousand yen or a bit of a headache.
Mm-hmm.
Much better to just say yes if you can and, keep the customers happy. I've been pretty lucky, I guess, with makeup lessons. Things generally seem to work out. And I don't have a huge number of textbooks for group lessons. For kids lessons right now, there's only 3 actively being used. So
Okay.
I'm usually able to find the time. My policy is I just tell parents, this is when the classes are. If you can come, go ahead,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it works out. How about yourself?
Every like first grade, second grade, Nenshu, they all have different textbooks that they use.
Yeah,
So unless
complicate things for sure.
definitely, yeah, because we're running, I think 16 classes, yeah, and in those 16 classes, there's still classes that don't have anywhere to make up their lessons
Wow.
because I have one class for 5-year-olds and that's it.
Mm.
I'll be flexible and they can come to like a level above them or a level below them, but sometimes but then you run the risk of like
Oh man, you froze. No. Man, this thing keeps freezing. Sorry, you froze there.
am I okay?
You're okay now, but yeah, it was like
Okay.
5-10 seconds. You're just like,
Well, so I was saying, like, if the student transferred into a different level, then they kind of slow down that class for the day.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So in that regard, transfer lessons aren't good. Makeup lessons aren't good because they're actually bothering the class they're transferring into. It's good for them, but bad for everyone else. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I noticed
So
that in other schools I worked at, there's so much variance among kids' characters anyways, and then especially among the ages, to anyone who's had kids or works with kids, it's obvious that, a boy who's 3 versus a boy who's 5, there's a massive, massive difference in their
right.
cognitive abilities. So personally, I just designed the classes to have kind of a range, and I don't focus so much on age After 5 years old, I don't really focus on age so much. So I have some English classes here with, I just had one today actually where there's, okay, let me think. It's a year 2, a year and a year 3, and a year 4, all in the same book in the same class, because that's what their level is, you know.
Okay.
And yeah, there's
Yeah.
differences. The youngest is a little bit behind the oldest, and the kid in the middle is kind of between them, you know, as their ages would suggest. But
As they would be, yeah.
yeah, as they would be. And I don't really see a better way of doing that because there's only one of me, you know.
Right, right.
I think the same applies to education in general. Like have you ever worked at like an elementary school or anything where you're teaching like,
No.
yeah, it's a totally different dynamic. I had a home room where I taught 28 kids.
Yeah.
And man, of course they were all the same age, but sometimes you have to have more of a shotgun approach for teaching, you know. It's nothing impersonal, you know, I'm not saying you have to sacrifice quality, but you have to kind of spread yourself out and, you know,
I've heard from there's a guy down in Kyushu named Robert Murphy. He has a school for a long time. Also, he's developed this really good, impressive program. But he categorizes students by level instead of age, just like you're doing. Yeah. But they said they can have a 5-year-old and a 12-year-old in the same class. But then the way they deal with it is a 12-year-old just ends up teaching the 5-year-old.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of kids are really happy to do that. And it's not like you can just sit back and like get your phone out and like, oh, you guys are done? Cool. Okay, see you next week.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, you can enlist and kind of get kids active in so many different ways.
Right.
I'm glad to hear that actually, that guy's doing that.
It's yeah. I mean, if you get a chance to ever go to a workshop, I mean, this guy's amazing. His focus at his university, like his research. There you go. His research is neurology. Yeah, neuroscience.
Okay.
So he's actually in this new field of like neuroscience / EFL, and how studying a second language affects your brain and brain development.
Sounds pretty fascinating.
It's really good stuff. It's really good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if this YouTube channel takes off. Maybe he can join us at one point.
Yeah. Just a matter of providing good content.
Yeah. But yeah. So I guess in the end, for me, transfer lessons, makeup lessons, they take up a lot of my time. I'm trying to think of a way to make them more efficient right now. I don't want to get rid of them, but if it's just taking up way too much of my time or kind of making the other classes suffer, then at some point maybe I got to get rid of them.
Yeah, or maybe kind of simplify things.
Group kids by level instead of, right?
Yeah, I mean, with ESL, that, in a way, that's a bit more realistic because it's not something they're exposed to from day one like they are with Japanese. You know, you wouldn't do that in a little school here. But if it's something they're being introduced to, they're going to come in at different ages and they're going to have the same level, you know. So it's, yeah, I mean, to a degree, I think it's okay. But I really draw the line at the 4 and 5-year-old level. That level is going to be on the kindergarten books. I'm very hesitant to take anybody younger than 4. They're just yeah.
All right. Yeah, so I do like 1-year-olds and 1.5.
Yeah, that stuff, man. That trips me out. I just I can't get them to respond, you know, and I just feel kind of silly. Like it's a personal thing, I guess. But I've never had any training or feedback for teaching kids that age?
Yeah, I just started it and I just did it and kind of let it grow into this. It's still like in its infant, no pun intended. It's in its infant stages.
Okay.
Um, I see it.
You're taking
I,
that.
I see it. Yeah.
No pun intended.
No, pun was fully intended.
It was totally fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe that's another topic.
That's another thing that there's a lot. The more ages you teach, the more opportunity there is as a business, of course, and then also to kind of learn as a teacher, because there's a lot of repetition and kind of the potential for boredom if you're just kind of always doing the same exact thing all the time with students.
Oh yeah, I mean,
there is the opportunity to kind of branch out and learn things. I feel like I really need some stimulation, down here on Shikoku.
yeah. Well, start teaching the little kids, man. I mean, I go from a 1-year-old class to, like a junior high school class at the end of the day.
That's wow.
And it's just such a different machine, man. But yeah. All right.
Well, it's about 20 minutes. So
Yeah. Good place to call it, yeah.
I think so.